but this is going to be mainly focused around high school. And I had a rough time in high school. Some of it is mentioned in this, and then there are other things that I will probably talk about after I'm done with the actual scrapbook pages. So since this video is probably going to be pretty long, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it. For those of you who do not know, this series has just been a series of videos where I go back through and share with you all pages from a scrapbook that I made in high school. For those of you who would like to watch the previous videos, I'm going to link those in the description below, so they'll all be there for you guys. Okay, so as I said, this is high school, and the title of this chapter is High School, the Early Years. The first day of school, my freshman year, seemed to fly by. Like my first day of middle school, I felt overwhelmed by everything. It didn't really hit me until a few days before I was to meet my teachers how different high school was going to be from middle school. I'd heard so many stories about high school, and some I questioned. Unlike many of my friends, I was the oldest child in my family. Before my freshman year, I'd only been inside Heritage High School 2 times. It seemed like all of my friends knew their way around the school because they'd been there so many times with their older sisters and brothers. My freshman year was the best. I had just about all of my classes with my 2 best friends from middle school. Surprisingly, I knew a lot of seniors that year, and knowing them made it easier. Unfortunately, I failed physical science first semester. I was more concerned about having fun than doing my work and studying for tests. Thankfully, I was able to make the class up without having to take it in summer school. So a lot of my friends were seniors when I was a freshman, and most of them were like neighborhood kids. I had grown up with these kids, and the majority of them were guys. And so going in, it wasn't too hard because I did know people, and that made it a little bit easier. And then going back to the class that I failed a lot of classes in high school, and I'm not proud of that. It was not because I was not smart, it was because I just didn't care. School was not my thing, and I wanted to be anywhere else other than school. It was just, I just remember sitting there through every class thinking this is the most boring thing, and just literally looking at the clock every minute, just saying, please, let this class hurry up. So, yeah, my parents were not too happy with me when report cards came out and progress reports and all of that. Yeah. So, getting back into this. In May of my freshman year, the unthinkable happened. Our school became next on the growing list of school shootings that were taking place across the country. I remember being glued to the TV as the Columbine massacre occurred, and I didn't understand why or how 2 people could have so much hate in them that they'd want to take so many young lives. The morning the shooting occurred at our school seems just like yesterday. I remember every detail. I walked to the bus stop just as I did every other morning. My bus was running about 5 minutes late that morning, but I wasn't complaining. It was nice outside. I got on the bus and we went down the street to pick my friend Gina up. My sister was running late as usual and caught the bus when it came back around. It was a normal bus ride to school. The bus driver stopped at the middle school first, as she did every day, and then began to take us to Heritage. My voice is getting shaky because just reading this brings back the memories, and like I can just feel myself, I don't know, just going back to that place, so I apologize. On the way to school, 2 police cars passed us with their lights on, but no one thought anything of it. Then, over the radio, someone said, on the bus started crying and hugging each other. We had no idea what exactly was going on inside the school. All we knew was that someone had a gun. We didn't know if anyone had been injured, and we were praying that this wasn't like what happened in Colorado. I began looking out the bus window into the parking lot to see which of my friends were at school. Most of them were. So basically what I was talking about is I was just looking. My eyes are starting to tear up just thinking about this. I was just looking out at the parking lot to see whose cars I recognized to determine like who was there out of my little group of friends. People were running out of the school to get to their cars. It was crazy. I saw two of my friends get in their cars and drive away. That was when I really started crying. I knew that they were going home and that they were safe. On the bus, one of the girls got her cell phone out and was letting everyone use it to call home. And you gotta remember, this was at a point where cell phones weren't really that popular. I think 98 was when I was a freshman, so it was kind of like a big deal for someone to actually have a cell phone, especially a ninth grader at that time. A few minutes after the first message across the bus, the same voice came across the radio and said for all buses to return to the middle school. We watched as ambulance started flying past us to get to the high school, and everyone on the bus feared the worst. So we're driving back to the middle school, and as we're driving back, there's just ambulance after ambulance and police cars. I mean, it's something like out of a movie, and we have no idea at that point how many people had been shot. Teachers, students, we had no idea. I mean, even to this day, it just still feels like something out of a movie, and you know, like I was in that, I lived that, and it was crazy. When we returned to the middle school, the principal came out to our bus. Many of us had younger brothers and sisters at Edwards, and we wanted to get them, but he said we weren't allowed in the school. And I remember that my sister was at Edwards Middle School, and that's the middle school that we went to. She was in 7th grade at the time, and my sister and I, like, we had a terrible relationship growing up. We fought all the time, but I remember like all I wanted was, you know, like to go in there and get my sister and just go home. So yeah, that was that. So we didn't know why they wouldn't let us, you know, in the school. We didn't want to stay on the bus. Like, we wanted to get in the school, but they're like, no, none of you. If you've been to the high school, you cannot step foot in the middle school. And looking back on it now, I understand, because it was for safety reasons. They had no clue what was going on. For all they knew, somebody could be on the bus with a gun. You know, they didn't know if it was one person or two people. At the time, nobody knew. I called home using my friend's cell phone, but no one answered, so I left a message letting my mom and stepdad know that I was okay and I was going to a friend's house. Less than 5 minutes after we had gotten to my friend's house, my mom arrived. I was so glad to see her. Thankfully, she got the message on the answering machine before she heard anything on TV. My friend's mom pulled up in the driveway then, and we all just stood there and cried. That's, like, I cannot even imagine if my mom had turned on the TV before, you know, she had got my message. I cannot even imagine, like, what she would have felt or what she would have been going through. So I'm glad that she, you know, listened to my message before she found that out. And I just remember standing there in the driveway and just not really even being present, just like staring off. And then my mom drove up and my friend's mom drove up, and I mean, they just like sped in the driveway, and it was just crazy. I was so happy when I got home. My neighbors came over as soon as we pulled in the driveway, and they said they'd heard what happened on the news. Then my dad drove up. I hadn't seen him in over 6 months, so I was really surprised to see him. at the time, the whole situation still had not sunk in. And it was just really weird with my dad because it's not that we weren't close. I mean, we weren't, but he was still my dad, and I still loved him, but we had not seen each other in like 6 months, and he showed up and was crying, and I had never, ever, seen my dad cry, ever. Um, so that was hard, and I almost felt, there's a plane in the background, but anyway, I almost felt guilty, and I know that sounds really weird in a way because, like I said, my dad never cried, and he was just standing there with tears running down his face, and it was just so strange seeing him like that. My stepdad got to the house about 5 minutes after we did. I was really glad to see him too. My stepsister was a sophomore at Heritage, and so my stepdad got in his truck to see if he could go find her. On his way to the school, he passed her. She was walking to a friend's house, so that was good. We were all accounted for at that time, and my parents were extremely, thankful and happy, but we still didn't know what was going on. My sister was still at the middle school, and so yeah, that's gonna get into that here. My sister called from the middle school about an hour later crying. She was wondering if I was okay, and she wanted to come home, so my dad and I went to check her out. Everyone at Edwards was getting checked out. It wasn't until later that day when they realized the name of the gunman and the names of those who had been shot. And I'm not going to say his name. I mean, if y'all want to, you can Google it, but I'm not going to do that. But basically, I could not believe it because I had class with this guy, and I sat right behind him in computer class, and he was always extremely nice to me. We talked. He was really quiet, but I mean, I was really quiet as well, so I didn't think anything of it. Let's see. I said, people look at school shootings and say something like that will never happen at my school, and then it does. That evening, the guy who lives across the street from me was walking back to a friend's house, and we talked for a little while about it. He was a senior at Heritage, and growing up, we had been best friends, but we had somehow drifted apart as the years went by. I had friends come up to me and say they had people whom they hadn't spoken to in years calling their house to see if they were okay. It's sad that it takes something like that to wake everyone up, and I still feel that way. It was the same thing. I had family members and people that I hadn't seen or talked to in forever calling and, getting in touch with my parents asking if I was okay, and yeah, it really was just sad. So that was ninth grade. That was like the week before the last day of school, I believe, of my ninth grade year. My 10th grade year seemed to drag on. I had the hardest time with Algebra 2. The first semester of my 10th grade year, I took Algebra 2A. I did all of the work assigned and would study for hours for tests, but I never made above a 75 on any of the tests. Now that is true. I actually did try in that class and I still failed, but I worked my butt off and I could not get it. Math is just not my thing. In October, my parents went for a conference with the teacher and my counselor. They both suggested that I stick to it and see what happened towards the end of the semester. So I started studying even harder than I had before. I was also staying after school 3 days a week for additional help. I was spending so much time studying algebra that I noticed my other grades beginning to drop. I ended up failing Algebra 2A with a 56. A 56. It really did not come as a surprise because I had pretty much accepted the fact that I just did not unfortunately, my best friend moved away that year. After the first 2 weeks of my junior year, I decided that I wanted a job. I was in Miss Lally's child care class for the second year and loved being around children, so I decided to see if I could find a job opening at a daycare. The first place I made a call to was a daycare center called All About Kids. The owner happened to answer the phone and told me they had one opening for an afternoon teacher in the 2-year-old room. I went by about 30 minutes after I'd called and filled out an application. I was so nervous. After I handed the application to the owner, she read over it, smiled at me, and said, "When can you start?" And when I put this together, I was still working there. So this says I'm still working at All About Kids, and I'm currently the lead teacher for the afternoon in the 4-year-old room. There are times when I feel somewhat overwhelmed, but I truly love my job and hope to be there until I finish college. I still can't believe that I was hired at the first place I filled out an application. The whole work thing, it just worked out really well. My friends, a lot of them had been struggling for months to find jobs and were not successful, and I just so happened to be very lucky and get hired at the first place I put in an application for. Basically, work was my distraction. I had so much going on in my life. I feel like high school is just kind of when things really went bad for me. This is not mentioned in here because I just didn't want to talk about this. We had to pass these books around, and so other people got to read them, and I didn't want anybody reading about this, but I developed an eating disorder about sophomore year, I want to say, and I dropped down a ton of weight, and it just got really scary, and my parents never really said anything about it at the time, but they knew that there was an issue. They had to, but nobody really said anything. I was doing a lot of things that were not healthy. I was taking a lot of diet pills, just way overboard with the diet pills, and I was exercising like crazy. I mean, when I got home from school, I was walking probably 3-4 miles a night, and then I would go out and play basketball in our driveway for hours. So it was just not it was not healthy, and unfortunately that is something that I still deal with and have issues with even today. That's just basically when it started, though. A lot of people in my videos have made comments like, "Oh, you look bigger," or "You've gained weight," and to me those are the most hurtful comments because I do, every single day of my life it is a struggle, and I don't know, it's not anything that I really feel like has gotten any better over the years. It's just different. So yeah, there's that. And then I also developed my issues with sleeping or not being able to sleep in high school, and I have suffered from insomnia ever since, I want to say, 9th grade, possibly 10th grade, and it's just really, really bad. Seems to get worse every year, but it's just something that I deal with and just try to work through, I guess is the best way to put it. Okay, so on to happier things. I have some pictures here that I'm going to share with you all, just pictures of me and kids that I used to work with, and they're so cute. So I'm going to share those now. This first picture, that's me right there. That's my sister's friend Gina, and then that's my sister. We are so young. I have the braces going on. And this is a picture of me. And this is another one. And this little boy right here that I'm going to show you, he was like my heart. He was my favorite. That was taken at the daycare that I worked at. Moving on. This is another picture of me. sense to hire somebody, another 16-year-old like they did with me and pay them minimum wage. That would save them, a pretty good amount from what they were paying me an hour, but it was just a crappy situation, and I didn't like the way that it ended. I felt, I don't know, it's kind of disrespectful to me after all of the time that I'd put in there, because daycares have a very high turnover. People work there for weeks and then they're like, nope, this is not for me, and they don't stay. But I'd been there for like 6 years at least, so I don't know. But they were just all so cute, and I'm glad that I still have these pictures. My neighbors are outside, and they've got like this little not electronic, but this electric car, and it's so loud, so I'm gonna try to finish this up really, really quick. I have some more movie tickets that I saved, and these are from Inspector Gadget, The Sixth Sense, Bicentennial Man, Stuart Little, Finding Forrester, Something Down